This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by the things we make. If you want to support Gregory Kamichuk, you can go to gmbkamichuk.ca. And if you think Justin Curry is just all right, you can go to chasingartwork.com.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. As Dan is quick to point out, that is producer extraordinaire Dan, every episode is a special episode, and today is no different. If only we could ask the people in the crowd to be quiet. This is a live recording of Super Pulp Science. The crowd here in the background has been shushed to a low murmur. And I'm here with Darren Stebeleski, who has some explaining to do, and my long-suffering co-host, Justin Curry, known the world over as Chasing Artwork. If you're new to the podcast, you should know that we rarely prepare Justin for what is going to be discussed. And we haven't really prepared Darren for what's going to be discussed, but there is a reason he is here. In the interest of full disclosure, Darren is an instructor who I met many years ago when I was first starting out doing graphic novels at the U of M. He asked me to come and speak to some of his classes. There was a group of students about like what gives me the right to do this kind of stuff. And then most recently brought a group of design students to the studio to discuss and do a lecture. He gave a lecture, which I got to listen to. And then I got so upset at some of the points he was bringing up that I challenged him in the front of all of his students. And I will say this about Darren. Many people in academia, when somebody from the field they're discussing challenges them, take it personally. Instead, Darren said, well, your point, this is what this guy would say to your answer, and this is what this guy would say to your answer, and let's as a group discuss what the middle ground of that idea is. And that's when I said, ooh, I want to have more of this conversation without students around to really dig in a little bit. And so, Darren, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. So now Justin knows what we're talking about.
I still don't know.
This is what made me mad. All right. So this is what we're going to discuss. And for the dear listener.
This is called gotcha journalism, right?
Gotcha journalism, yeah. For the dear listener, one thing that's really important when you're having a discussion like this is to set the parameters of what is called an operational definition. All right. So my operational definition of visual art has always been putting ideas into someone's head without their consent. And so that's how visual art functions for me. That's my job as a artist is I'm going to create an idea that they haven't had. I'm going to put it in their head, and they're going to have that idea whether they like it or not when they see the piece. So that means I've designed the experience. But while I was listening to this very well-annotated lecture about graphic design, one of the principles of graphic design was that once it is designed, it is not art. Now I'm paraphrasing, and Darren will get to say it. So if Darren's right, what you and I do is just assembly line nonsense, Justin. And it has never had any artistic integrity. And if Darren's wrong, then we are princes of men. All right? How's that sound?
You're paraphrasing a little. Just a little. Or
okay.
Editorializing, I think.
So if you don't mind giving us the Coles Notes of the lecture for the purposes of the dear listener getting some context.
I don't recall ever saying assembly line hacks. I think that's your...
That's what I understood.
Yeah.
That's how my feelings felt damaged.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I hope I didn't... I hope I didn't come across that way, because I really actually think comics are...
It was when you spit on the book that gave me that.
No, to me, I'll take comics over an art gallery any day. So it's not like I'm, denigrating the art form or the... Oh, there I just...
Yes, we won. We already won. Ting.
The craft of making comics at all. I would... Yeah, any day I would sooner go to a comic book store, and I feel more at home there and more like my family is there than I do in an art gallery. So I think the artist and designer Donald Judd probably said it best when he said, "Design has to work, art doesn't." I think that's a really good quote to sum up how I feel about graphic design versus art. If a chair doesn't support a person, then the chair isn't going to do its job. If a poster doesn't direct somebody to the rock show that it's supposed to direct them to, it's not doing its job. Art can exist for art's sake. It can be, made for an audience of one, which is the artist. The artist can decide, like I thought about breakfast today, and I did this dance performance piece based on that, and it doesn't have to mean anything to anybody else but me. There might be a million different interpretations of it. It really doesn't matter. So graphic design, though, it's got to be for an audience of many. It's got to work on as many people as possible. It has to be clear. The message has to be evident. It's objective. Art is purely subjective.
No, what I like about this is that this moment right now that I'm just having in the studio with the two of you is that Justin went through the program at the college and has often said that his secret weapon to the work he does is that he trained as a graphic designer. And so much of what you do is in that idea of graphic design. So why don't you tell us how graphic design helps you make art, and then we can kind of zero in between these three ideas.
Yeah, so like what's been going through my head as we've been having this discussion is if I was doing art for art's sake versus what I'm doing, which is kind of illustration and design for clients, for customers, for my own business. There's deadlines, there's purpose, there's results. And because of that, and graphic design really instilled this in me, the work ethic and that timeline and the meeting the deadlines. And because I work, I am making illustration with a deadline of a Comic-Con in mind, with a deadline of a store launch in mind, with a book release. I have all these milestones that I have to have things done, and they need to be done by then, and they're for these people. It has made me work probably 10 to 100 times more than if I was just working for myself, doing art when I felt like doing it. Like, I am such a stronger artist than the version of me that is just doing it when I feel like it for myself. And so that's where I get kind of like almost angry at the thought of not doing it for anybody and just letting it sit there, because it feels the part of me that is a workaholic like screams in rage at that.
Sometimes I work on into the night. I'm hardly conscious of myself anymore. And the pictures come to me as in a dream with a terrible lucidity.
We are self-diagnosed workaholics here at the studio, definitely. But from the perspective of, I'd rather be making stories and graphic novels than go on vacation. Like when our family is like, oh, we're going to plan to spend a few days here, a few days there, in small part of me inside dies.
Yeah, after day like 3, you start shaking a little bit.
And my wife understands the methadone of it is that I bring my sketchbook wherever I go, right? And no matter what's happening, it's okay. Dad has his sketchbook. He just needs a hit. So he's just drawn that, like the architecture of that building for a second before we go on with the vacation, right? Like this. So I think that context is important. But one thing that you said made me think of something that I think I heard my grandfather say once, which just kind of came unbidden from my subconscious here, which was, you swim because there's water. So what you're describing is that you're swimming because there's water. Like I
jumped in the water.
You jumped in,
yeah.
Right? You made the choice to jump, so now you're swimming. And maybe one of the things that you're talking about is that an artist can make a boat and never push it from shore. It never has to be able to sail. Is that?
Yeah, that's a fair analogy.
As a designer, like an engineer or a designer, the boat would have to work if you're going to take it out sailing.
It has a destination.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. There's another really great quote that I like, actually, from Wim Krauwel, who's a Dutch graphic designer of some note. He said, I'm an engineer troubled by aesthetics. And I think that's a great way of describing graphic design, and probably comics too, in that, they first have to work but they also have to look good. So I think the graphic designer would make the boat, they'd make it, but it wouldn't just be utilitarian. It would look good. It would look like a Viking longboat or
They
something
might
like
decide
that.
we're going to use only S curves.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the engineer would figure out how to make those S curves.
This is a mid-century modern boat.
Well, it's interesting in that regard because so much of what I do right now, the last 4 or 5 projects that we have here at the studio, I'm intentionally designing the cover elements and the internal pieces to feel like old comics so that the object itself will feel like it was made in a different time, but the form is the same as it's always been. It's just 24 pages that you turn. And the content is updated to have less misogyny and less racism than comics like we were looking at here before, right? Like the old Jack Kirby comics, you can't take them from the era and let them sit as they are. They speak for a time they were made. So we're trying to make comics that feel like those old comics, but speak for this time. So that's not, by your definition, not art.
That's a design.
Yeah,
that's a design decision. Like you're deciding to make. I want to make these comics look like this product of the past, feel like this product of the past. Even if you didn't live through that era, you'll somehow figure it out because our collective consciousness says that's 1970s or that's 1950s or whatever. And I think this is exploited a lot in industry. Like there's a product, True Grit Texture Supply makes this great product that can debaser, right? That can make things look like old comic books. All the defects, all the ink traps are loose. You get that great halftone dot pattern. I love this product. Absolutely love it because it very quickly you get that aesthetic across, and I'm pushing it on my students all the time, so much so that they think I'm a pitchman for the company, and I'm not. But I love it. I use it constantly because I'm wanting to make my work look like it's from a certain era. But that's it's completely a design decision. I'm consciously saying it must look this way. It must feel this way.
Now, we were just before you got here, Justin, we were going through the one of my prized possessions is the Mazzucchelli, pardon me if I'm mispronouncing that, David, but artist edition of Born Again, and all of those things that we see as, or that we now today use as a design choice, True Grit, use those features, were actually byproducts of the production cycle. They weren't choices. They weren't design choices. They were production needs. They were necessities of production that we now add to our comics as a choice.
It's hilarious. They would they would probably look at us and be like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
you have all these great tools at your disposal.
Why are you making it shitty on
You're
purpose?
trying to make it look shitty. Yeah, it's exactly it. Graphic design does this too. Letterpress printing is a good example. It's highly in vogue right now and has been for a few years now. And it's a style of printing that those guys would have killed to have what we have today, the technology we have today. And now we're like, well, this feels more authentic. This feels more nostalgic. I want to use it. But I love it. I mean, it speaks to a more authentic era, more.
But it's not to say that art isn't precise, because Justin's work is exceptionally precise when you look at it when it's finished. But if you watch him make it, he's like an insane person in a cloud of colored glass.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But it feels very precise. People look at it and they go, oh, wow. It's perfect. They'll use words like it's perfect. Yeah. But they didn't watch him make it.
It's the illusion of organization and patience, but I have neither.
So at what point does art become design?
I have an answer for that. I want to jump in here because what I've thought about is that what you're saying is that design is basically art with a purpose. It has to have a goal in mind, something that it tries to do, whereas art doesn't. Art can just be art for
Bullshit.
the sake of it.
Art has a purpose.
No, but it doesn't have to.
This is how we start.
No, it does often. It does often have a purpose. It does good art, or define good art, but much you could call it successful art. Art that everybody. Well, the Mona Lisa.
No.
Why not?
No,
that's a successful painting. It's very, very popular.
So popularity.
Sure.
So the Pepsi logo is.
That's design. That's not art.
Popularity, you just said, was the indicator of success.
But I'm talking about art, not not design.
I'm saying, tell me the difference.
The difference is that
If you can recognize
Liberace.
at a certain point,
What was the
Da
name of the artist who
Vinci's
painted it?
Mona
Da Vinci-
Lisa.
He painted it for the sake of painting it. He didn't paint it to make money or to sell a product. I'm getting worked up here.
Just me too.
But the Mona Lisa was probably done for his patron at the time.
Yeah.
And
he got paid to do it. Right, absolutely.
But I have the Mona Lisa is so famous because of its
almost
story.
a logo now.
Like if the Mona Lisa was just let's erase your memory of art.
Yeah.
And if you were in the Louvre,
So underwhelming.
and the Mona Lisa was among everything else, you would never pick it out
Yeah.
as anything special.
If you hung it in the Hermitage, no one would ever stop to look at it.
Its story. It's been stolen. It's been it's gone through some things. It's just famous. It has better branding than the rest of the painting.
This is what I'm getting at.
The only place design can become art is if you make that decision like Warhol did with the soup cans. You know, he takes them off the shelf, puts them on a painting, and then puts it in a gallery and says it's art. What does he mean by it? I don't know. My interpretation is going to be very different than yours, than anyone else's. But that's maybe the point, right? Like there's no objective
you're
to
the
that.
perfect person to
It could be
ask.
some sort of take on commercialization, but I don't know what that take is.
Look, a masterpiece, direct from the salon. See? Symbolism.
Liechtenstein is famous for the pop art comic paintings. If you've seen a
Right.
comics painting, you're probably like, ooh, Liechtenstein. The truth is, he copied Jack Kirby. They're direct copies of Jack Kirby panels from comics as gigantic pieces of
If
art.
I were a comics artist, I'd be pissed off at Liechtenstein because you got paid
a lot more,
page rate, and then he's getting unhold like thousands of dollars for these paintings, right?
Yeah.
Tens
So,
of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Whatever.
Is he a plagiarist or an artist?
Oh, good question. I guess he's a capital A artist because he's like taking this image, subverting it, and he's got his own intention. What that intention is, I don't know.
So, friend of the podcast and podcaster himself, Dr. Jonathan Ball of Writing the Wrong Way, when we had this conversation off air a little bit before you came here, one of the things that precipitated your arrival was him insisting that art is defined by its defamiliarization with its original intent. And so Liechtenstein is therefore safe, and he is not a plagiarist because he's taken an existing thing and defamiliarized it from its setting and presented it in a new setting in a new way to a new audience with a new meaning.
That's as good a definition as.
I still hate it, though.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not a fan.
But by the same token, I borrow heavily from original printed material in the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, basically whatever's safe that I can copy a logo or literally cut a logo element out that is no longer under copyright protection to reuse in the own collage comics that I do. So I'm at least as guilty as Liechtenstein for taking the efforts of a graphic designer and taking credit for them with my name on the cover. So
No, everyone does it. I mean, it's done in music all the time, right? With sampling, it's really no different, I think.
So we haven't solved the problem, the age-old question: when does art become design?
It's part like the.
Rather, I'm not satisfied with our answer.
When does art become design?
Yeah,
I don't think it ever could be.
But if
Just
it has
by
a-
definition, it can't.
but if it has a purpose, if I want you to
if
be,
it has a purpose, it becomes design.
if I paint a picture that I want you to be uncomfortable when you look at it, and you feel uncomfortable, it's no longer art; it's design.
If I'm feeling exactly the intent, and if I think like a mass audience feels the same thing,
Yeah.
then that's probable. Like, it's like with music. I mean, I think of music similarly to the way I think about this question of design versus art. Like I see music as being something that's composed. You know, like it's right there in the title, composer. The composer will think about. I'm going to use major chords because I want this to feel uplifting. I'm going to use minor chords here because I want the user to feel sad.
But they can't necessarily play every instrument they're composing.
Maybe not,
For.
but they can get someone else.
No, that's
to
what I'm
do
getting
it.
at. I'm saying
Yeah.
is why it's interesting is like a director. They have directed someone else who has a skill or is an artist to produce it.
I guess what I'm getting at is they feel like the composer will have intent. Like I want this to be a sad song. I want this to be a happy song. And if it doesn't work, then it's failed. I feel like design's the same way. Like it has to work.
So music is not art by that definition.
Yeah, I don't think it is really. Like there's some gray areas. I think electronic music can be.
I'm going to provide Darren's direct email address in the liner notes here in the
think,
comments. You
well,
can send him what you feel.
Yeah, like I mean, electronic music I think is a gray area. You know, where you get experimental and different people feel different things on hearing it. But I think like if you're a hit making team. and you like sit down with I don't know, like Miley Cyrus or whoever, and you decide like, okay, we're going to make a hit. I think that there's a formula to that you follow. And pop songs will follow a formula. You know, they'll be 3 minutes long and they'll go like verse, chorus, verse, bridge, you know, like.
So interestingly, if we bring this back around to comics, in the 90s comics scene, your McFarlanes, your Silvestris, your Liefelds, all started adopting the certain kind of page layout where there would be a full image of the character as an anchoring element to the page, and then panels that went alongside them. And they considered that to be the like recipe. No, I'm speaking for them. You can go find their own where they have claimed the same thing. This became the recipe to how to make a hit comic. People loved this thing, and so they all started repeating it and doing it over and over and over, and the sales just kept climbing. So they're no longer artists at that point because they've designed an output.
I don't think they ever were. And I would caution your listeners not to go seek out the work of Rob Liefeld because it's just awful.
I don't mean to defend Rob Liefeld on Super Pulp Science, but if you put his work in front of a young audience, an audience of 12 to 18-year-olds, they love it. And so his design elements work for the intended audience of his comics better than the design elements I make for comics work for my intended audiences. While I don't personally find it great, the same way I've said this about Capullo, his work does nothing for me, but he's a far better comics artist than I will ever be. It just doesn't evoke emotion in me.
Here's another thing I've been kind of rolling around in my head. A lot of this art for art's sake only works because of the environment and the presentation. You walk into a gallery, it is like there's a little write-up, it's on a stark white wall by
Context
itself.
matters
Context, right?
Yeah,
Context.
yeah.
If you saw that Bob Liefeld lying in an alley beside a comic book page, you'd think that that was a misprint, right? You wouldn't.
Right.
It wouldn't have that same impact because it doesn't make sense out of its environment.
Right.
It doesn't survive on its own.
So this is where it comes back around to my visual art definition of putting ideas into someone's head without their consent. Rob Liefeld, in defense of Rob Liefeld, his work in a quarter bin, if a kid is going through it, a young person's going through it, it has its desired, and they will pull it out, they will look at it, and they will say, and I know this because my kids have done it, Dad, who's this? What is this? Which means he is succeeding in putting that idea of adventure, excitement, possibility into the heads of the young people that are intended to read it. And so, you may say to yourself, as a draftsman, he's no Mazzucchelli or no Frank Miller, selling 1 million copies of Youngblood is not by accident.
Yeah.
It's by design then.
I think your quote could be amended. Like it could say, what does it say? Art is about putting...
Well, this isn't a quote. This is my actual belief
definition.
system that you're attacking. So putting ideas into someone's head without their consent.
Yeah. Okay. So if you said...
Visual art is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Putting an idea into someone's head without their consent, or putting a specific idea in someone's head without consent.
Yeah, okay, that's
so
fair.
if you put a specific idea in their head without their consent, then that's design. If it's an idea, and it could be any idea, then that's art.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's about intention. Yeah, that's right. And objective, like.
But wait. Because I agree it is about intention, but I think I may disagree as to what you mean. I think if it has the intention to be art, it is art. And you're saying if it has intention, it's design.
No, I'm saying if it's a specific idea, like if you want people to specifically buy these sneakers and you want to get that idea into their head without their consent, that's successful advertising.
Right.
But if you want to convey some sort of idea, any
Hope.
idea,
Love.
hope, whatever,
Desire.
like that's still going to mean different things to different people. Like somebody can see
Buying all 5 alternate covers.
somebody can see the Mona Lisa and think it's funny. Other people could see it and say it's sad. Really, it doesn't matter. It's just art. It matters to the maker
Because
but
it only
doesn't
mattered
matter.
that you paid to go in to see it.
I'm in a cage of shame and self-doubt and failure. Somebody believe me.
Now, dear listener, we have stolen Darren away from his class, which he has to leave for pretty soon. So I'm being cognizant of the time. But isn't the very notion of commerce underlying, isn't that the water? Like we swim because there's water. Isn't that the underlying notion of where people are getting caught up in the argument. If we didn't have to sell our art to have a living wage, it wouldn't matter whether people liked it or not. It wouldn't matter if you could sell 1 million copies, because you wouldn't have your fiduciary existence tied up in your production and your ability to have that production reach the intended audience.
Yeah.
But because money is the medium that we are all moving in, this is an argument that we have. Oh, well, that lobster on the telephone receiver is worth $1 million, but my 1,000 hours into this book isn't.
Yeah, it's interesting how we ascribe value onto things, isn't it? Yeah. And I think that you make a really interesting point. And I think I had a art professor that used to say he wished that all Canadian artists would like go to the U.S. to work for a while, because he felt that would make them better artists, because they would have to make art to survive, not to satisfy the grant system.
100% agree.
And so,
but so, you're still working for that grant. You're still doing what
absolutely.
you think the grant wants to hear. That idea that is going to get them excited.
I think it's a sad state of affairs. Like I'd rather not live under capitalism. I'd rather live in a system where you could make art just for art's sake. I hate that we are forced to do it for commercial reasons. I hate that we have to sell people shit that they don't need. I really do. But and I don't think that really defines art, though. I think, or art versus design. Like I think either way, we still have to work under the system. We still have to make money. We still have to eat.
How strong the wind is changes how you fly your kite. So it does change it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like I think that professor was right. I think if you're in the States, you're going to make something that's more commercially or like.
Well, if you could do comic, we'd live and die in the most cutthroat visual. Like it is attention warfare.
But let me ask you this: if money was no object for you, Gregory, say tomorrow you win the lottery, you have millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Are you not still going to make the same stuff you're making right now?
Yeah.
I couldn't see you.
Yeah.
Changing things up too much. You love what you do.
Oh gosh,
too much
with a almost incalculable passion.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's great.
Yeah, but it would change how much time I spend fighting for my intellectual property, fighting about my intellectual property, and making moves related to how can I earn X with Y input. And with that amount of freedom, I'd probably become a better dad, right? Just throwing that wildness out there. But the point you made about going to the United States, like go where the competition is, try to survive. Justin's a good example of that. He came in as a young, fresh-faced. What's the phrase you're supposed to do to practice?
I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
Yes, well, I just failed it. Fresh-faced graphic designer and illustrator. And then when you saw how people responded at the shows, you said, oh, well, I like doing all of this. I can do more of that also. And Shatter Vector kind of, I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth, but kind of grew as a result of people responding to it, didn't it?
That response definitely fueled the fire, which made it more enjoyable for me. So
then ultimately money changed your art practice.
Yeah, but again, it goes to that, like, I love that there is this, fire under my butt to make things, and I think the consumer has a lot to do with it. I don't like the alternate version of me that doesn't have that and is just making art for art's sake. That person seems lazy and probably is not getting nearly as much done, and thus, at the end of their career, I think like Mimi is going to have a much more impressive portfolio than they are.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it was also the audience response that drove you too? Like you like making things that make people happy and respond a certain way.
Mm-hmm. And as a person who really loves the way art makes other people feel, if you stand, I apologies to anyone who's been tabling beside the Chasing Artwork booth because it can be quite overwhelming. But when you watch people's unbridled response of joy to the work that is there, it's awesome. Like, I love it. I love tabling beside Justin because I get real fired up by, like, seeing people get excited when they don't know what something is and they don't care what it is. They just have to get closer to figure it out. And that all happens in a calculation of seconds. They've walked by in a place with more attention warfare than you can possibly imagine. A Comic-Con, a New York Comic-Con or a San Diego Comic-Con, and they stop in their tracks and look up like they've come to Mecca. right? And it's just Justin. Just grinning there with some colored robots, and they're just totally overtaken by it. Something now?
I was going to say that we're running low on time.
Okay.
Final thoughts, Darren?
Yeah, Darren. So here's a final thought. Two final thoughts. One is a question, actually. Will you come back? Because I feel like we'll get some angry responses to this podcast, and we can discuss those.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And number two, why comics?
Why comics?
Yeah.
I think comics, for me as a kid growing up in a small town who didn't play sports, was a total nerd. I think I found my salvation in comics. Like, to me, like the life of Peter Parker really spoke to me as a young teen. Like, here's a kid who he's got girl problems. He can't make rent. He can't hold down a steady job. He's got these other responsibilities. I'm kind of getting choked up thinking about it because it's like that really meant everything to me. And like in a sense, comics really saved me. Like they really did. And so like I'll be forever grateful to those creators who stepped in, I guess, and intervened in a life that could have been a lot worse without them, I guess.
Yeah.
Very well said. This has been super.
We have to wrap it up because I think you, Darren.
No, no,
Pretty confident.
no. We're going to bring him in later.
Yeah.
We're going to bring him in later.
Thank you, Darren.
Yeah, we're going to cut out the part where I was going to be eloquent and thank my guest. And producer Dan would like me to thank you, Darren, but I don't know if you've earned it.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm going to come back anytime.
Actually, I found your. Okay, I have a last thought to your last thought then, since Dan asked me.
I got time.
I found your summation there to be so perfect in describing the life of an artist trying to make art in the world that needs all these other things, which is what we've been talking about, but also knowing, as I know, the choices that Jack and Stan made and Ditko in developing Spider-Man to be flawed, to represent the average person, so that that kid could feel like they were represented in a real world that also had superheroes in it, so that they knew that there was something else they could do, that it was okay, that it wasn't easy to be different. That was design or art?
I feel like it was designed because it was speaking to me, to that audience, to that nerdy kid that didn't identify with like the square-jawed, millionaire of DC, the Bruce Waynes. So you looked at a Peter Parker and you were like, you saw yourself. To me, the comic could have been called Peter Parker, and he just happened to also be Spider-Man.
So then they put a specific idea into your head without your consent. So by my definition, art.
It was exactly the idea I was looking for, but it was a specific idea, not a random idea. Like they wanted to tell me, Peter Parker is a sort of hapless nerd who has all these problems, and he's probably a lot like you. You know?
Well, thank you for coming, and this will be part one of a longer discussion about whether or not Justin and my life choices have any artistic integrity attached. This has been Super Pulp Science. I'm Gregory Kamichuk, encouraging you to join the fight and make comics.